My aunt didn't even have the courage to look me in the eye when she handed me the box. After 8 years of building her empire from a dusty garage into a mid-sized logistics powerhouse, after 8 years of being the only person who understood the heartbeat of this company, I was being discarded like an outdated software update. And for what? For a fresh perspective. For her son, my cousin Leo, who had just spent 4 years partying through an MBA and thought a business degree made him a god. "It's not personal, Sloan," she whispered, staring at a spot on the wall behind me. "It's just Leo has ideas. He says your methods are clunky, outdated. He wants to modernize the infrastructure. And frankly, we can't have two people in leadership. Family understands, right?" I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even point out that clunky system she was talking about was the only reason we hadn't been flagged by the Department of Transportation in half a decade. I just looked at my desk, at the thousands of hours of proprietary code, the intricate Excel macros, and the API integrations I had built from scratch, and I felt a cold, sharp clarity wash over me. 24 hours, Sloan," she added, her voice regaining its edge. "Leo needs the office by tomorrow morning, and don't bother asking about a severance package. I paid for your college internship 10 years ago, consider us even. Family doesn't sue family after all." She walked out, leaving me in the silence of an office I had practically raised from the ground. She was right about one thing: family doesn't sue family. But she forgot the cardinal rule of logistics: you never ever fire the person who holds the keys to the vault. To the outside observer, I was just an operations manager. To the IRS and the federal auditors, I was the magician. Our company, North Star Logistics, survived on high-volume government contracts. These contracts came with strings, massive, complicated, terrifying strings. We're talking about federal tax credits, fuel surcharge reimbursements, and payroll compliance that changes every single quarter. The clunky system Leo hated so much was actually a masterpiece of financial engineering. I had spent nearly a decade building a proprietary logic model. It wasn't just a spreadsheet, it was a living, breathing organism. It pulled real-time data from our fleet's GPS, cross-referenced it with fluctuating federal fuel tax rates, and automatically generated compliance reports that kept us in the gold tier for government bidding. The beauty of it, I didn't build it on the company's servers. Early on, when the IT budget was zero, I hosted the core logic, the brain of the operation, on my personal cloud-stored API keys. I used my own Python scripts to bridge the gap between our raw data and the government's reporting portal. The company saw the result, but they never saw the machinery. To my aunt, it was just Sloan doing her math stuff. That evening, as I packed my last few items, Leo sauntered in. He looked like he'd just stepped out of a young entrepreneur photo shoot, expensive suit, zero calluses, and an ego that leaked through his pores. "Hey, cuz," he smirked, leaning against the doorframe. "Don't look so down, you did okay for a starter, but I've seen your files, all those hidden rows, those 500-line formulas, it's embarrassing. I'm going to clean this whole place up. Put everything on a nice, clean dashboard, you know, real executive-level stuff." I tucked my external hard drive into my bag. The logic in those files is specific, Leo. It handles the IRS Section 45L credits and the Davis-Bacon Act compliance. If you break the links, the numbers won't report correctly. He laughed, a loud, condescending sound that echoed in the empty hallway. "Sloan, it's 2026. There's an app for everything. I'm not worried about some hidden logic from the Stone Age. Just leave the passwords on the desk and clear out. My team starts the optimization tomorrow." I looked at him, really looked at him, and I realized he had no idea what he was sitting on. He saw a gold mine. I saw a ticking time bomb that only I knew how to defuse. "You're right, Leo," I said, my voice as smooth as glass. "It's time for a fresh start." I walked out of that building for the last time. As soon as I hit the parking lot, I pulled out my phone. I didn't delete a single file. I didn't hack anything. I simply logged into my personal Oz account and revoked the access permissions for my proprietary API keys. I disconnected my personal scripts from the company's data feed. The spreadsheets would still be there. The pretty dashboards Leo wanted would still look fine, but the brain, the logic that ensured every dollar was taxed correctly and every federal credit was legitimate was gone. It was in my pocket. As I drove away, I felt a strange sense of peace. My aunt wanted to play the family card to avoid paying me what I was worth. She wanted to prioritize nepotism over competence. Fine. She could keep her golden child. But she was about to learn that in the world of federal logistics, there is no such thing as a free lunch, and the IRS is the most expensive guest you'll ever invite to the table. The silence of the next 3 weeks was the loudest thing I'd ever experienced. I didn't call, I didn't text, I didn't even check their LinkedIn profiles. I knew exactly how the golden child would operate. Leo wasn't a builder. He was a decorator. He didn't care if the engine was smoking as long as the car had a fresh coat of wax. I spent my newfound free time at a cabin upstate, watching the leaves turn and monitoring my personal AWS dashboard. Every few hours, I'd see a 403 forbidden error ping on my logs. That was North Star's server trying and failing to pull the automated tax logic from my private scripts. Each ping was a heartbeat of a dying system. Leo, in his infinite MBA wisdom, had likely seen the error, link broken messages on his first day. And instead of calling me or hiring a forensic accountant, I knew exactly what he did. He did what every overconfident optimizer does. He hit delete on the broken formulas and manually entered what he thought the numbers should be. He didn't realize that my formulas weren't just math, they were legal shields. They calculated the weighted average for interstate commerce fuel tax, a nightmare of a metric that requires pinpoint accuracy. If you're off by even 0.5%, the IRS flags you for a manual audit. In Leo was probably rounding up to make the quarterly projections look cleaner for my aunt. By month 2, the pretty spreadsheets were in full bloom. I heard through the grapevine, an old dispatcher who still grabbed coffee with me, that Leo was being hailed as a hero. He had cut the fat, simplified the reporting, and somehow, miraculously, found an extra $400,000 in liquid capital that had previously been trapped in compliance reserves. I almost choked on my latte when I heard that. That trapped money wasn't profit, it was a dedicated escrow for federal payroll taxes and workers' comp adjustments. He hadn't found money. He had just stopped paying the government. He was treating a high-stakes logistics firm like a lemonade stand. "Sloan, your aunt is telling everyone how much faster things move now," the dispatcher told me, his voice low. "She says you were overcomplicating things just to stay relevant. Leo says he's going to take the company public in 3 years. Is that so?" I replied, staring out the window. "Tell me, has the IRS sent any notice of discrepancy letters yet? Or maybe a Form 2210 for underpayment of estimated tax?" The dispatcher paused. "Actually, the mailroom did mention some certified letters from the Treasury. Leo told the staff it was just routine paperwork and handled it himself. He said he's optimizing their tax strategy." Optimizing, that word. It's the favorite mask of the incompetent. What Leo didn't understand was that North Star operated on federal contracts, specifically the Small Business Subcontracting Program. These contracts come with a certificate of competency. Part of that competency is maintaining a clean ledger for 3 consecutive years. By optimizing the tax strategy ACA not paying the proper dues, Leo wasn't just risking a fine. He was inadvertently committing federal procurement fraud. I sat back and waited. I knew the timeline. The IRS automated questionable employment tax QET system usually takes about 90 days to trigger a hard flag when a company's reporting suddenly deviates from its 8-year historical average. On day 92, the flag hit. I wasn't there to see it, but I can imagine the scene. A plain white envelope, heavy with the weight of government authority, landing on my old desk. A formal notice that North Star Logistics was being moved from routine reporting to in-depth field audit. My aunt probably didn't panic at first. She probably patted Leo on the back and told him to show them those beautiful charts. But the IRS doesn't care about charts. They care about the logic behind the charts. And the logic was currently sitting on a thumb drive in my jewelry box. The bomb had been planted by my aunt's greed. It was triggered by Leo's arrogance. All I did was stop holding the detonator. The storm didn't just break, it leveled the building. On a Tuesday morning 4 months after my resignation, the IRS didn't just send a letter, they sent a team. 3 field agents and a forensic accountant arrived at North Star Logistics for what they called a pre-award compliance review. Usually, this is a formality for a company with my 8-year track record. But Leo had spent 90 days optimizing the books, which in IRS language translates directly to tax evasion. Because I had revoked my API keys, the company's software couldn't pull the verified federal tax credits I had spent years qualifying for. Instead of seeing the error and fixing it, Leo had manually entered the credits anyway, essentially claiming millions of dollars in government subsidies that he had zero documentation to back up. To a federal agent, that isn't a mistake. It's a red flag the size of a billboard. I heard the play-by-play from my old assistant, Sarah, who was hiding in the break room texting me in real time. "Sloan, there in the conference room, your aunt is pale." Leo is trying to explain his new dashboard to the lead agent, and the guy just looked at him and said, "Sir, I don't care about the UI. I need the source logic for the Section 45L fuel calculations from Q3. I smiled, sipping my tea. What did Leo say? He told them the system was proprietary and he couldn't show them the back end for security reasons. The agent literally laughed. He told Leo that if he didn't produce the calculation logic in 24 hours, they were freezing the company's federal disbursement account. That was the kill shot. A logistics company without a disbursement account is a car without an engine. They couldn't pay drivers. They couldn't buy fuel. They couldn't even pay the rent on the warehouse. By 4 p.m. that afternoon, my phone started vibrating. It was my aunt. I let it go to voicemail. 6 minutes later, another call. Then a text. "Sloan, please pick up. It's an emergency. There's a misunderstanding with the Treasury. Leo needs your help finding a specific file." I didn't reply. I waited until the third call, which came at 7 p.m. This time I answered. "Hello," I said, my voice as calm as a graveyard. "Sloan, thank God," my aunt gasped. She sounded like she'd been crying for hours. "Listen, honey, we're in a bit of a mess. The IRS is here. It's just a routine thing, but they're asking for those old clunky files of yours. Leo accidentally, he archived them and we can't seem to get the numbers to sync. Can you just hop on a Zoom and walk him through the API bridge?" I leaned back in my chair, looking at the sunset. "I'm sorry, Aunt Diane, who is this?" "Sloan, stop it. It's Diane, your family. We need those files." "Now, oh, Diane," I said, using her first name for the first time in my life. "I think you're confused. You told me 3 months ago that my methods were outdated. You said Leo was the future. Surely the golden child with the MBA can handle a simple federal audit? He's the one who optimized the infrastructure after all." "Sloan, they're talking about fraud penalties," she shrieked. "They're saying we owe $3 million in back taxes and another $2 million in penalties because the reporting doesn't match the bank deposits. If we don't fix this by tomorrow, they're pulling our government contracts. The company will be bankrupt by Friday." "That sounds like a serious corporate liability," I said professionally. "And since I was fired with 24 hours notice and denied a severance package, I am no longer an employee. My professional liability insurance doesn't cover North Star anymore. In fact, if I were to touch those files now, I'd be legally liable for whatever adjustments Leo made. It's a huge risk for me." "We'll pay you," she pleaded. "Whatever you want, 10,000, 20, $5 million in debt, Diane," I replied. "And you're offering me 20,000 to commit felony obstruction of justice." "I don't think so. Like you said, if family doesn't sue family. But the IRS, they aren't family and they definitely sue." I hung up. The next morning, the local business journal ran a small headline. "North Star Logistics suspended from federal bidding amid accounting discrepancies." The smart revenge wasn't in the destruction, it was in the absence of my protection. I hadn't broken the company. I had simply stopped being the glue that held it together. And without that glue, the golden child was just a boy playing with a deck of cards in a hurricane. The fallout was swift, clinical, and devastatingly public. By Friday, the golden child wasn't just losing his grip, he was losing his mind. I received a link to a local business news live stream. There stood my Aunt Diane outside the North Star headquarters looking 20 years older than she had just 4 months ago. Beside her, Leo was sweating through his Italian suit, stammering as a reporter asked why the company's federal contracts, the lifeblood of their operation, had been revoked overnight. "It's a technical glitch," Leo stammered into the microphone. "Our transition to a modern, cloud-based infrastructure encountered some legacy compatibility issues." "Legacy compatibility issues?" the reporter pressed. "The IRS statement says your filings for the last 2 quarters were mathematically impossible based on your fleet's GPS data. They're calling it systematic fraud, Leo. Is it true the company owes $5 million in back taxes and penalties?" Leo looked like he was going to throw up. My aunt stepped in, her voice trembling. "We are working with our original operations team to resolve this. It's a family matter." I watched the screen, leaning back on my sofa with a glass of wine. I wasn't his original operations team anymore. I was a free agent. And she was right about one thing: it was a family matter. A family matter that was now being liquidated by a federal court. 2 days later, the public catharsis reached its peak. A court-appointed receiver arrived at the office to begin seizing assets. Because the $5 million debt was tied to federal procurement fraud, the corporate veil was pierced. My aunt's personal assets, her house, her luxury car, the very office building she'd used to kick me out, were all on the line. The final call came on a Sunday evening. It wasn't a demand this time, it was a whimpering surrender. "Sloan," Diane whispered, "the lawyers say if we can prove the errors were accidental, if we can show the original logic you used, they might drop the fraud charges to simple negligence. We'll lose the company, but at least Leo won't go to prison. Please, I'm begging you as your aunt." I took a slow breath. This was the moment. The smart trap had closed completely. "Diane," I said, my voice steady and devoid of malice, "the logic you're looking for is my intellectual property. I created it on my own time, using my own scripts, and hosted it on my private servers. When you fired me and claimed my work was outdated and clunky, you officially rejected that property. You chose Leo's modern vision." "But it was for the company," she cried. "No," I corrected her. "It was for the company I was building. The company you thought you could run on nepotism. If I hand over those files now, I'm essentially admitting that I was responsible for the mess Leo made while I wasn't even there. My legal counsel has been very clear. I am not to touch North Star's books. It's a biohazard zone now." I paused, letting the silence settle like lead. "You told me family doesn't sue family, Diane, and I haven't sued you. I haven't leaked your secrets. I haven't even badmouthed you. I simply did exactly what you asked. I left. I took my outdated methods with me and stayed out of your way." "We're going to lose everything, Sloan," she sobbed. "You already lost the most important thing, Diane," I said quietly. "You lost the person who was actually keeping you afloat. Goodbye." I blocked her number. A month later, North Star Logistics filed for Chapter 7 liquidation. The golden child became a cautionary tale in the local business community, the MBA who optimized a company into a $5 million grave. As for me, I didn't stay unemployed for long. 2 of North Star's biggest competitors had seen the news. They knew exactly who had been running the show for those 8 years of gold-tier compliance. I signed a contract with a national firm as a senior consultant for federal compliance. The best part, my starting salary is double what Diane ever paid me, and my contract explicitly states that my proprietary logic models remain my intellectual property. I still drive past the old North Star building occasionally. The sign is gone. The windows are dark. It's a hollow shell, much like the promises of family loyalty my aunt used to make. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel sad. I just feel balanced because in the world of logistics and life, the numbers always have to add up. And mine are finally perfect.